Hey solos. Okay, so you made it a 2025 resolution that you were going to go to Disney World by yourself this year. What are things that you should know? Well, solo spoiler, it's such a great place. Disney is such a great place to go by yourself that yes, it is important to prepare, of course, but really the risk is so low that even if you go without a plan, you're going to have a great time. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do. And welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. This episode is going to be for people that, yes, who go solo all the time, but really it's for people who might have never gone solo to Disney World before. And part of their resolutions for 2025 was kind of like dipping your toe in the solo travel to Disney World pool. And I'm going to be referencing some of the old episodes. So again, if this is your resolution for 2025, you can listen to this one, get a really good overview. I'm going to answer some like frequently ask questions and also point you to some older episodes so that you can get like that full spectrum of tips and tricks and stories and all that stuff for your own solo trip, which I am so excited about on your behalf. Happy New Year as well. Last week for New Year's Eve, I did an episode about like channeling your own solo magic, your Disney solo magic, even if you're not going. But if you are going, then there are some things to think about, especially for the 2025 season. And that's what this episode is going to be all about. So as you probably know, unless you're a first-time listener, hello. As you might know or might not know, the links to all of my social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads is down below. If you want to get in touch with me, I love it when people get in touch with me. Please DM me on Instagram. That's the best, quickest way to get in touch with me. You can listen to this on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe and rate and review, and please share this around with other people. I want them to know about the podcast and how great it is to really just like, gosh, you know why I love solo travel to Disney World? Because I'm going to swear a little bit. No, I'm not, because I have said this is a clean podcast. It's really just like an FU to people that don't believe in taking care of yourself, channeling joy, channeling magic, and knowing that like being a kid is not just for children. And in fact, Walt Disney created Disneyland for adults because he was like, when adults go to like these fairs, there's nothing for them to do. It's just to watch their kids. So Disney World was created, Disneyland was created for adults. And Disney World was created as this big world that was like... Sorry, usually I don't do a whole history lesson as the introduction, as the whole preamble, but I guess you're getting that today. Disney World was planned as a whole world with places that you can really just like immerse yourself in this world of magic. And remember, like the initial idea for Epcot was supposed to be a living, breathing community. And that's all for adults, right? So I just love solo travel to Disney. Just like, sure, my own solo trips, of course, but just knowing people are doing this for themselves. So yay you. Yay you. Okay, no, there were some other things. Oh, I think I said all that because I wanted you to share this podcast episode as well as any of the other episodes. The other thing is that if you want to support the podcast and keep it commercial free, you can buy me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Disney_solo_magic, and you can press like 1 coffee or 2 or 3 and like just do Apple Pay. It's like $3 American, which is about $5 Canadian, and it will send me a proverbial coffee to keep me caffeinated for all the podcast creation and editing throughout the week. My quote-unquote coffee this week, I think, is going to be a hot apple cider. They had hot apple cider as like one of the giveaways for the Christmas party this year, and it just wasn't hot enough. And I really, to be honest, a month later, I'm still just kind of thinking of like a nice hot apple cider. So that's going to be my quote-unquote coffee for the week. So thank you very much for supporting me in the podcast and my hot apple cider. All right, that is definitely enough preamble. Let's get into it. All right. So, hi, solos. Now, I am imagining that new people may have found this podcast because it was one of their 2025 resolutions to go to Disney World by themselves this year. And maybe it's because they didn't get to go as a kid because it was an expensive vacation then. It is still an expensive vacation now. Or you're so used to going with friends and family that you're like, I think I want to try going by myself. Or if you have gone by yourself many times and just want to find some new ways to kind of keep it interesting and exciting, this episode is for all of those kind of new-ish listeners as well as the established listeners. Hi, established listeners, and hi, new listeners. If you are a new listener, I'll just give you a quick background on me. My name is Samantha. I live in Canada. I'm in my early 40s. I am single. I've gone to Disney solo quite a few times in the last couple years, and I had all this information about going to Disney that wasn't really that helpful for my friends with kids. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I could share it on a podcast. And so here I am sharing it on a podcast. I started last April, and I started with these episodes that I really encourage you to go back and listen to. I'm going to reference some of them in this episode because it really kind of laid the outline of what Disney World is. Because I remember telling an intern of mine about 10 years ago that I liked going to Disney World. This time I wasn't going solo, and she had a very judgmental face on. She wasn't a great intern either. Anyway, she didn't really get it, and I was like, it's not like going to an amusement park for the day. It's a whole thing. So I think the most important thing when you are planning your Disney World vacation is to remember, especially when you are an adult traveling by yourself, that Disney World, the Walt Disney World Resort, is the size of San Francisco. It is double the size of Manhattan. This is a tidbit of information that I learned on the Skyliner going from Hollywood Studios to the Caribbean Beach, Skyliner port. And it's something that stayed with me so much. And I think that this is important to remember when you are planning your vacation, is that when you are thinking about, is there going to be enough of this? Can I travel this way? Do you think this is better than that better? It's important to remember that you are in a city that is essentially a hotel. If you've ever been to an all-inclusive resort, well, this is like an all-inclusive resort, except it's definitely not all-inclusive, in that everything is within this city-sized piece of land. And for me, as someone who travels by themselves, as a woman who travels by herself, and who's someone who doesn't drive, because I live in a city where we have a very good transportation system, that is really, really freeing to me, because I know that there are so many places that I can go within Walt Disney World that will give me different experiences. Now, I recognize in saying this, for some people that might actually sound very intimidating, but it really shouldn't, because Disney wants you to travel around that city. They want you to travel around the Walt Disney World Resort. They want you to be able to go to all 4 parks and the water parks and the over 20 different hotels. They want you to do all of these things. They want you to go to the entertainment and dining district, and they want you to do that safely. How are they going to do that? Well, Disney has a full transportation system. It has buses, it has boats, it has an aerial gondola system called the Skyliner. It has the monorail. It has walking paths. It also collaborated with Lyft to have its own ride-sharing service called the minivans, M-I-N-N-I-E, adorable. However, I don't actually think you need to take a minivan when you are going to Disney solo, and I did a whole episode talking about things not to do at Disney solo, and taking a minivan is one of them. Spoiler alert, the reason why is because it's a huge cost in comparison to a regular lift. And one of the reasons why it is that upgraded cost is because there are different options within the cars for things like car seats. And if you're traveling alone, you don't need to worry about car seats. So that's actually an extra bonus. So if you are wondering oh, I don't know if I should stay at this hotel or that hotel because I don't know how I can get to this place or that place the most efficient. Well, the fact is all the transportation is there and convenient, but also sometimes it can feel quite leisurely. And so I have talked in the podcast in those early episodes in the spring and the summer about choosing a hotel based on price and vibes. There are 3 different categories of hotels. Well, 3.5. They are value, moderate, and deluxe. There's also deluxe villas. The deluxe villas are basically the deluxe resorts, but they are part of the Disney Vacation Club, or DVC. You get, rather than like a standard room, you would see something like a studio, and the studio would have a little kitchenette and then a bed that pulls down. I have never stayed at any of the DVC. I do hope to change that this year, but in general, I don't know. I feel like the rooms are much smaller if you get a DVC studio versus a regular standard room, but we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. I have said in the podcast you should choose your hotel based on price and vibes. So the value resorts, look, there's 4 of them: All-Star Sports, All-Star Music, All-Star Movies. They're basically exactly the same. The only difference is the ways that they are decorated, and they're like the neighbors. You can walk in between them. And then there's also Pop Century. There's also Art of Animation. That one's it's kind of a value resort, but it has a lot of family suites, so not a lot of solos stay there, so I don't often include that when I'm talking about the value resorts. The fact is, a lot of people can only afford the value resorts, and they're great. I did all these different episodes talking about each one of those value resorts. Pop Century is often a favorite for a lot of people. If you have the budget and you're choosing between Pop Century and All-Star Sports, I would often tell people to go to Pop Century. It's bigger. It's attached to the Skyliner to both Epcot and Hollywood Studios. But if you only have an all-star budget, then lucky you're going to Disney World. Don't even worry about it. The moderate resorts are a little bit more money, and they have much more immersive theming related to geography, whether that is like Dixieland South or the French Quarter in New Orleans or the Caribbean or like southwestern Mexico, the United States. Coronado was a little confused about that. Those hotels are great. Moderate is my favorite place or favorite level to stay at the resorts when I have a little bit more money in my budget. If not, then I stay at value because, again, going to Disney World is still great no matter what hotel you're staying in. I did 4 episodes about all the moderate resorts. So again, go back to the summer episodes and check those out. And I tell you all about the layout of the different hotels and the different dining options. One of the great things about the moderate resorts in comparison to the value resorts is that there are more dining options. So it's a little bit more sophisticated of an option because not only are you going solo, you're also going as an adult, and you might want, again, a more sophisticated dining option than like the regular food court. Although regular food court's great, no judgment. You do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo. But if you wanted some extra options, moderate resorts are a great choice. The next category of hotels is deluxe, and they are deluxe. They are the most expensive hotels: the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, the Wilderness Lodge, all those ones directly close to Magic Kingdom. Those are all deluxe resorts. You can usually tell the deluxe resorts because they are the closest to the parks. But I don't necessarily think that you should choose your hotel based on proximity to the parks if your budget doesn't allow it. I have never stayed at a deluxe resort myself, and although I'm sure I am missing something, I actually don't feel like I'm missing something because what you get about being in the Disney bubble and staying in the value and moderate resorts as well is still really great. The other option is that you can stay at a good neighbor hotel, and those are neighbors to Walt Disney World, and they are run by a third-party company. They're not Disney hotels, but they are kind of close to Disney hotels. Some of them are right close to Disney Springs, and you'll often see really, really good deals. Now, I stayed at, so I've now stayed at 2 Good Neighbor hotels, and personally, I would not recommend them. The Swan and Dolphin are often really popular Good Neighbor hotels because they are really, really close to Epcot and to Hollywood Studios and has a lot of different benefits. And I also stayed at another one this December. It was like a Marriott. I don't know. It was fine. That is my summary of staying at Good Neighbor hotels. They are fine. It's absolutely fine. For me, though, especially as a solo woman, I really like to stay on Disney property at a Disney hotel. I feel safer. And I feel that because I am directly in the transportation system, then it is much easier to navigate my whole vacation versus just going to and from the parks. So when I stayed at a Good Neighbor Hotel this December, what I felt was I was staying at just like a regular hotel, and I then spent the day in the parks. Whereas when I stay at one of the Disney hotels, I feel like the whole vacation is a Disney vacation. And for me, traveling solo, who really just wants to have this like escape from the everyday, that staying on the property is a much bigger value of mine than staying off property at a much lower cost. The Swan and Dolphin gets a lot of rave reviews, but I found it very unfriendly and very un-Disney, and being so close to Disney made it even more frustrating. So look, I recognize the value in the Good Neighbor hotels, and if that is where you want to spend your money, that's awesome. But personally, I would rather stay at like All-Star Sports, if that is what my budget will allow, and stay in the Disney bubble than taking a bus or taking a Lyft or an Uber off Disney property at the end of the day or the beginning of the day to go to and from the parks. That's my personal opinion. Going back to the deluxe resorts really quickly, one of the benefits of the deluxe resorts is all of the food and beverage options that are at the deluxe resorts. So some of the fanciest signature restaurants and some of the fun, cool bars and lounges are actually at these resorts, not in the parks themselves. So even if you don't have a deluxe budget, you can still go and check out all these deluxe hotels first you can just go to the hotels and walk around, which I think is such a cool thing to do solo. But you can also go and check out their different dining options, the different restaurants, the different bars, the different lounges. I've talked about all the different restaurants in an early episode of the podcast. Again, just go scroll down or scroll up or whatever until you get to those restaurant options. And the other thing is that one of the best kept secrets for solo travel is the lounges. So the lounges that are attached to signature restaurants where you can just go without a reservation. You still get that fancy menu. And maybe because you might feel a little intimidated to eat by yourself, although you shouldn't, you are now eating at a much more casual table rather than like in a full dining room. And the lounges are great. So again, go back and check out that episode as well. Now, you probably know that Walt Disney World has 4 different main theme parks. They have Magic Kingdom, which is the OG classic. Then there is Epcot. Epcot, I really separate, and I did whole episodes on all 4 of the parks. And I think in that episode, I talked about how mentally I separate it as the new space stuff, the old school earth and water stuff, and then World Showcase, which I actually consider Epcot. Just World Showcase to me is Epcot. That crude definition of the 3 different areas of Epcot nobody else uses except my own brain. But there is a really cool blend of like cool, fast, new type of rides and attractions, and one is reopening in 2025, which is the reimagined test track. And then there is also kind of the old school Land and Seas Pavilion where there's a whole aquarium, but also the new Moana walkthrough, and then classics like Soarin' and Living with the Land. And then there is World Showcase, which I think is really just one of the most amazing things in the world, which are all these different pavilions from different countries where you can eat and drink and shop and explore the culture and architecture of different countries around the world. And I love World Showcase so much. Epcot has 4 different food festivals throughout the year, so it will be very rare if you go to Disney and not be there for one of the food festivals. It starts in January with the Festival of the Arts, and then in the spring there's the Flower and Garden Festival. In the fall there's the Food and Wine Festival, which is like the original festival, and then in December is the International Festival of the Holidays. My favorite festival for food is the Festival of the Arts. Unless I can squeeze in some sort of last minute trip, I don't think I'll be able to make it this year. Sad face. sad face. But my second favorite, actually my overall favorite festival is the Flower and Garden Festival because of how beautiful and bursting with flowers and foods and music the Epcot looks. It's my favorite festival. All the festivals are pretty much the same in terms of the different components, things like the food booths and entertainment and other like additions to really bring the theme alive. And what changes is the theme. So again, if you're planning on like what's the best festival to go to, again, identify what vibes you're most interested in. Art, flowers and gardens, just food and wine. Although I will say that even though it is actually, because it is the original festival, there is a lot less theming around some of the elements to that. They don't have to try as hard. And then there's the Festival of the Holidays, which is essentially a Christmas festival. So which one are you most drawn to? That would be the best one for you to go to. The third park is Hollywood Studios. It was created as MGM Studios, RIP MGM Studios, for the Hollywood that never was and always will be. It is also the park that will have all the Star Wars stuff and the Muppet stuff until it's going to close very shortly, kind of in like the next year or so. So try to get in there if you're a big Muppets fan. Hollywood Studios is my least favorite park because I'm not a Star Wars fan and I have just such like attachment to MGM Studios from 1992, 1993. But I always really love it when I go and just do that like one stretch of street and do Tower of Terror and then like do some really good shopping and then leave go back to Epcot. The fourth park is Animal Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom, so many solos tell me this is their favorite park, and I think it's because you can really, really appreciate all the details when you aren't there with a whole bunch of people that are, drawing your attention in a lot of different places. Animal Kingdom is also going through a bit of a renovation starting very soon. They have Dino Land, which will no longer be Dino Land, thankfully, and instead it's going to be like Tropical Americas, but that won't be for quite a while. So if you are a Dino Land fan, then get there as soon as possible because it will be going, wait for it, extinct, correct. There are also two other parks for the Walt Disney World Resort property, and those are the two water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. Now, they are not usually open at the same time anymore. They alternate. So if Blizzard Beach is open, Typhoon Lagoon won't be, and vice versa. And it's not just like one day, the other day. It's really like big chunks of time. For 3 months, this one will be open, then 3 months that will be open, back and forth. And they'll say it's for renovations, but really it's just because it's not cost efficient to keep them both open. However, something that is very, very cool for 2025 is that the first day that you check in to your Walt Disney World Resort hotel, you get to go to one of the water parks for free. And I am really, really into that. I haven't been to one of the water parks since I was a kid, and for no reason other than like, I'm busy enough when I'm there. I didn't need another thing. But the fact of going to one of the water parks and checking it out with like no cost risk is really cool. So I am really, really excited to check that out this year. The final place that you should know about, well, not really, there are other places, but the biggest place, the final biggest place that you should know about on the Walt Disney World Resort property is Disney Springs. Disney Springs is an outdoor entertainment, shopping, and dining district. It used to be called Downtown Disney, and now it's called Disney Springs. It's had a few names over the years, and like I said, there's shopping, there's food, there's, the biggest Disney store in the world, but then there's also Lululemon. You can go to Coach, but you can also go to Trends with a Z, which has some cool Disney merchandise. Marketplace Co-op is one of my favorite stores there. Again, it has some Disney merchandise that is sometimes a little harder to find. And yeah, it's a really cool area to walk around, check out the different stores, eat things. They always have entertainment. They have big stages at some points during the year, like at Christmas, they'll have like roving entertainment. So you'll always see something. At nighttime, they always have stuff. There's great restaurants that you can book reservations for through the Disney Experience app, but also Open Table. So go check that out if you're having difficulties finding reservations. But then there's also places that just have bar seating that you can go up and sit at the bar, like Homecoming. I talked about that on my episode from, I guess, about a month ago, talking about my December Disney trip. So yeah, it's a really cool area to go and walk around. And if you don't have Disney tickets for the whole day or for the whole trip, for example, going to Disney Springs for a part of your day or for an evening or whatever is a really cool thing to do. And if you're just going to Orlando, quote, on business, and you don't necessarily want to admit to all your work colleagues that you really just want to blow off the conference and go to Disney World for the day, you can suggest to them about going to Disney Springs during the evening and just like check it out. And while you're there, you can be like, wow, look how cool this is. I never even expected it was going to be so cool. Can we please go into that Disney store? It looks really fun. And I suggest that to people on the airplane all the time. One final part, maybe it's not one final part of the whole planning a Disney vacation and like knowing things about a Disney vacation are the tickets. How many tickets should you get? Should you get Park Hopper? Should you get Lightning Lane / Genie Plus? Should you get the Memory Maker? Like all of those questions. See, that's not one. Those are multiple. Okay, how many tickets should you get? There are 4 parks. I can't answer this for you, solos. You're going to need to answer this for yourself. How many days are you going? Are you going less than 4 days? Because if you're going less than 4 days, you have to determine whether or not you want to see all 4 parks. If you do want to see all 4 parks and you are going for less than 4 days, then you should get a Park Hopper. A Park Hopper is a park ticket that is more money, but you can hop to all the different parks throughout the day. So if you have a Park Hopper ticket, you could go to all 4 parks in one day. If you aren't planning on getting a Park Hopper ticket, then when you buy your ticket, you have to choose which park you're going to. And there is a difference in price. Magic Kingdom is always going to be the most expensive one, and Animal Kingdom is always going to be the least expensive one. Should you get a Park Hopper? I can't answer this for you because solos, I can't even answer this for myself. When I would go with a former partner or I would go sometimes with my mother, I will stress about this question so much. 1 ticket, 2 tickets, 1 ticket, 2 tickets. Now, of course, you could be like, I'll get a Park Hopper for one day and then the rest of the days will just be a single park. No, you have to get Park Hopper for all of it or none of it. And then sometimes, oh my God, see, it can get very confusing. I solved this problem by getting an annual pass, and then I have not need to make this decision for the last 2 years. I probably will not be renewing my annual pass come the spring, and therefore I will have to start making these decisions. Look, for me, I love Magic Kingdom. It is a special place. It is always important to go to. However, when I do solo trips, I often will go because there's something I want to see at Epcot. There are a lot of times I don't go to Hollywood Studios at all, no matter how long I am there for. And Animal Kingdom is really great and special, but it is also a park. Some people call it a half-day park. I don't think that is very fair, and a lot of solos will agree. But if you're into like thrill rides, then it certainly is not a park that you're going to spend all day at. So it really depends what are those types of things that you want to do and where those things are going to be. If you can afford to get a Park Hopper, then get a Park Hopper and like hop around and explore them. But if you have a very clear idea of what you want to do, then just get those tickets. And here's the other thing, already start planning what your next vacation is going to be at Disney World. Isn't that amazing? The other question that I think is a little bit easier to answer is whether or not you should get Lightning Lane. It used to be called Genie Plus. It basically is like a fast pass system that now costs money. To be honest, especially because you're only buying it for one, I do think that getting the Fast Pass Lightning Lane Genie Plus, whatever they're calling it by the time you go on vacation, is certainly worth it if you haven't been in a while and there are definitely rides that you want to make sure that you ride. I don't love lines myself, but I'm also not really a ride gal. So sometimes I will do Lightning Lane because I'm like, okay, well, I want to go and try these different rides or do something a little bit different. But for most of the trip, like in December, for example, I didn't do any rides. No, that's not true. I did do rides, but I didn't do any Lightning Lanes and I didn't miss it. I didn't do Lightning Lanes because it wasn't like a ride trip. I was there to see Christmas trees and I was there to eat Christmas foods and go to the Christmas party. And if I rode rides, that was great, but I wasn't there for rides. I was there for Christmas. So again, I do think it is an easier decision if you want to go on rides than whether or not you should get a park hopper pass. But if it's not in your budget, then don't worry. That's okay. Go in the evening, like go during some non-peak times, and you might find the lines are a little bit shorter. Also, don't forget to check out single rider lines. There are a few different rides across the different parks that have a single rider line, which means if you are there by yourself, then you'll be there to fill up a ride vehicle. So if there's like a family of 3, for example, but there's 4 spots in a little ride vehicle, then they take someone from the single rider line to fill up that area. The Ratatouille ride at Epcot just opened their single rider line, and that has been a huge game changer for solos. When I was there, the regular wait was like 60 minutes and I waited 30 minutes, but that was because there was in the single rider line, but that was because there was actually a problem. If there wasn't a short delay, about 10 minutes, I would have gone on the ride in 20 minutes. It was great. Don't rely on the single rider line, however, as an alternative for the Lightning Lane. If you have Lightning Lane, you are skipping the lines at the rides that you're booking. However, there aren't as many single rider lines as there are like cool rides you might want to ride. So therefore, don't rely on the single rider lines. If it's that and the Lightning Lane, you can do both together to maximize your time. Should you also get the Memory Maker package on top of this, right? Because when you are booking your hotel through the Disney World website, it will ask you if you want to book the tickets, and it will also ask you if you wanted to add on the Memory Maker. So there are photo pass photographers around the different parks. They are usually in green shirts, and you can pose for all these different pictures in front of, different cool things. You can ask for magic shots, and a magically little cartoon character will pop up in your photos. It's really, really fun. There's also like a whole photo studio at Disney Springs that you can go and do some like photo shoots and things like that. All of the photo pass photos, like taking the photos, they're all free. So if you didn't buy the package, but you see a photographer, you can go and get a picture, and then they'll scan your ticket or your Magic Band, and it will show up on your account later on. However, if you want those photos to download without the watermark on it, then you need to have bought an access to that. If you buy it ahead of time, this is the Memory Maker package, it is obviously a lot more cost efficient. It's not cost efficient to do it for one day, but if you're there for multiple days and it's in your budget, I say go for it, especially if you really take advantage of it. And by that I mean stopping at every single PhotoPass photographer and getting great shots, asking for magic shots, and like really having fun with your poses. I have the Memory Maker package as part of my annual pass, and I've really, really loved it, especially because I'm going solo. So it's either the PhotoPass photos of my trip or selfies. And so it's great to have someone else take pictures of me. And to be honest, like no one in my family takes really great pictures of me. And that's a shame because I am super cute. So getting the PhotoPass photographers to take pictures, and like sometimes you get really fun fun photographers that will like encourage you to pose and do all these things. It's a real riot. It's really fun. So if that's in your budget and you're going for multiple days and you're open to posing and having a lot of fun with it, then I would say definitely add that. It's a really cool souvenir. One more thing I should mention, because this promotion just came out. So along with asking about your tickets and your memory maker, when you're booking through the Disney World website, it might also ask you about adding a dining plan. And dining is free, quote unquote free, during a certain period of time. If you pay regular price for the room, you get the dining package for free. I should do a whole episode on the dining package. So when I used to go with a former partner of mine, we always got the dining package because I didn't really want to worry about the cost of anything. And we were like in our 20s and we felt very fancy going to all these fancy restaurants. And then since COVID, they haven't really had the dining plan. So when I would go with my mother, I wouldn't sign up for the dining plan because there wasn't the option. And now I've gone solo, not because my mother's dead. So I was saying that I realized that sounded weird. And so now the dining plan is definitely back. I don't think it is a great value to do solo if you get free dining. So if you go to book your hotel and the option is a discount on your room or no discount on your room, but you get free dining, the free dining package, it is not worth it for you as a solo to take the dining package because it makes more financial sense to do the dining package in that case when there are more people that are going to use the dining plan. So basically take the discount on the room over the free dining plan if you're going solo. I'm not going to talk more about the dining plan in this episode. I will cover it more in other episodes. I really love the dining plan. I've never done it solo. I used to, like I said, I used to only go and do the dining plan. But since COVID, since going without the dining plan, I realized you don't really need it. But I do love it. I'm pro dining plan, but maybe not pro dining plan for solos. Woo, okay, that was a lot of introductory information. So I really want to encourage you to go back through the archive of this little podcast and listen to the different episodes on the restaurants, on the lounges, on the hotels. Listen to all the different episodes on the value and the moderate resorts to see if there are ones that better fit your vibe, if that is what your budget looks like. You can also listen to some really, really great solo stories about people just like you who have gone to Disney solo and like the reasons why they go, things that they like to do that they don't do with other people because solo Disney is the best, and other types of like tips for like going in the summer, for example, or whether or not you should plan a Christmas vacation. I know we're like 12 months out, but that might be your budgeting strategy, right? To like go for the first week of December, like I did, where you get to see all the Christmas stuff, but it's actually like the cheapest week to do the Christmas stuff. And you're now going to start to save up for that really great first week of December trip. That sounds great. I'm now going to go through some different questions that people have about going to Disney World solo. And this is for both people that have like never been before, people who are used to going but only with like a group of people, and then also people that go solo a lot who might be thinking about like different things to do this year on their trips. So the first question is, what is something that you should know before planning a Disney World, a solo Disney vacation? And I hope that this episode so far has answered some of those questions. It is a very big place, which I think is great, but I do recognize can be overwhelming. But know that Disney has created a space for you to be able to be transported around the different property really, really easily. Also remember that the deluxe resorts, like all the resorts, are part of Disney World. So don't ever feel embarrassed or ashamed or anything like that to go to a different resort and just walk around. Disney wants you to do that. They want you to do that because they want you to spend money at that resort, whether you're staying there or not. So even though it's a very big place, know that it is there to protect you and to keep you moving through Walt Disney World. And like that is their goal, and that should be your goal as well. So it's a big place, but I think that makes it even greater for a solo vacation because there's so many things to do. Another question that gets asked a lot, is it safe, especially for women? And I actually think that Disney is one of the safest places that you can travel, especially as a woman. So I was on the Skyliner once and I was sitting beside a woman and she was like, oh yeah, well, I travel here solo a lot because as a woman, it's one of the safest places to go. Oh my God, I've told this story on the podcast before. Look, I have traveled to a lot of different places by myself, either for work or for pleasure. Sometimes I've gone to places and I've worn a fake wedding ring just as like an extra safety precaution. I am very aware of my surroundings and my safety as a woman when I'm traveling, but also when I'm just in my normal life. And when she said that she goes to Disney because she thinks it's safe for a woman, it was the first time I ever considered that Disney would be unsafe. I was like, oh, right, the world can be an unsafe place. First time I even considered that it would be unsafe and that Disney is a good place to go because of safety. That's how safe it is. That someone like myself, who is always on guard for different kind of safety things, did not even consider the safety issues at Disney because it is so safe. And yeah, it's really great and really liberating for those reasons. So it's very safe. Another question I see a lot online is like, how do I prioritize the parks and the attractions and restaurants when I'm going solo? And like, here's the thing, solos. This is how you prioritize it. You do whatever you damn well want. Like, that's the most amazing thing about going solo. You don't need to worry about anyone else. And when I say you don't need to worry about anyone else, that means you don't need to worry about me either. You don't need to worry about any content creators. You don't need to worry about any influencers, any family members. You don't need to worry about anybody else. If all you want to do is ride the teacups over and over and over again, that's great. You don't need to ride anything else. You don't need to do anything else. If all you want to do is walk around Animal Kingdom and look at the foliage and like look at the animals and not ride a single ride, that's amazing. You should do that. If all you want to do is go to Epcot and find really cool, unique things to take pictures of in World Showcase, that's amazing. You should do that. Like, don't think of this trip as doing all these things on somebody else's, must-do list or a bucket list. You let yourself really just be drawn to the things that you are interested in. And this is something I talked about in last week's episode. Be really curious about the things that you are the most interested in versus the things that maybe you think you should go and do or eat or see. Like, really, just enjoy yourself. Like, just prioritize yourself. Now, one of the things I say in this podcast a lot as well is that not a lot of people really have had the chance to practice thinking about what makes them happy and making choices based on their own happiness. And so even though I can say, like, do whatever you want, it's your vacation, that might actually be a little scary for you. And so the thing is, it is really useful to then look at different people's like Instagram accounts to see what they're interested in. It is really cool to watch some videos, listen to podcasts, ask people like what their favorite things to do are. Listen to the solo stories like in my podcast, like just go through and listen to the different solo stories about what really draw people in. And I'll tell you, one of the things I've heard over and over and over again from people who go to Disney World solo is that one of their favorite things to do is just to be there, to people watch, to take in the ambiance, to like sit and listen to all the different sounds, to like look around at all these beautiful creative sights. to eat something delicious, like, to not worry about things like calories or sharing with other people or whether or not it's appropriate to have ice cream for dinner. Like, all of those different things, that just being with yourself in this most magical place, for a lot of people, including myself, that's one of the best things about going on solo vacations. So sure, you can have this huge list of things that you really, really want to do because all these different influencers say it's the best thing to do, but don't forget to just be with yourself and really enjoy and be curious about things that you're really enjoying and that you want to do more of. I did episodes across the 4 parks about different tips. And one of the ones at Magic Kingdom, I think, was just making room for magic. So go back and listen to those episodes about how to strategize your plan. But to be honest, if you go without a plan and it's really just appreciate the sights and sounds and tastes and smells of Disney World at all the different parks, you're going to have a great time. You're going to have a great time. Okay, one question that comes up a lot is how can I do a solo vacation at Disney World without feeling lonely or self-conscious, especially when I'm eating? Okay, look, I did an episode, actually, it was a little bonus episode coming back from my my trip in December where I got this like crazy wave of anxiety, and I was like, what is this anxiety about? And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm lonely. I don't know. Like, I love to go on solo vacations. I'm literally the most fun person I know. But like, of course, you can be lonely sometimes when you can't share with someone. And my sister suggested like 10 years ago, well, why don't you just go to Disney by yourself, since like my former partner wasn't interested in going with me. And I was like, oh, no, I think I'd feel really awkward. I feel lonely. I'd feel self-conscious. No way. I could not imagine it. So I told this particular story when I was there in December. I did a little video on Instagram, so you may have heard it if you watch that. And you can always go and click the link below to follow me on Instagram. But I was at Disney World. I was there with my mother a few years ago. She likes to come down to Florida, and she's like, sure, whatever. I'll go to Disney with you or whatever. She actually doesn't usually go to the parks. She just wants to be in Florida. So I don't remember what we did during the day, but I was like, all right, see you later. I'm going to go and have dinner at the park and go spend the evening at Magic Kingdom. And I was feeling definitely self-conscious about being there by myself. This was a few years ago, before going solo was like the thing I did. And I was totally into it. I was excited. I was happy. It's going at night. I love to go at night, but I definitely was feeling self-conscious. So I was in line for Pirates of the Caribbean. There was basically no big wait. So I was sat in my own row, and there was a woman who was sat by herself as well. And, when I knew we were going to go and get the ride photo, but I didn't, I was feeling self-conscious about being there by myself. And so I didn't pose, I didn't smile. And so when you look at the picture, I don't have the picture anymore, but when I remember the picture, I just looked very stoic. I looked like I was listening to a book talk at a library. I looked very stoic, like not happy, not sad, just kind of blank. And the woman who was behind me, who was also there by herself in her own row, had the biggest smile and was posing. And when I looked at this ride photo after the ride, and here's the thing, solos, I was having a great time. I rode Pirates of the Caribbean with hardly any wait. I was having a great time. But when I looked at the ride photo and I saw this woman's joy, I thought to myself, 1, people go to Disney World all the time. 2, it's an amazing experience if you allow yourself to have an amazing experience. 3, no one was making fun of her or me. She was just there living her best life, posing for these pictures. And 4, this could be something that I also could embrace. And I have thought of that woman so much when I do my own solo trips, because to me, it was really we were both there doing a solo trip, but here I was feeling self-conscious. And so if anybody looks at that picture, I've basically ruined the picture because I look so stoic and bored. And here's this woman living her best life. And In my last trip to Disney in December, I did this little video coming out of Hollywood Studios where I just said, just remember to show your joy. Like, you don't owe a smile to anybody, but you can show your joy. Like, this is such a joyful place. And the more I've gone to Disney and the more I've embraced being there solo, the more fun I've had. A few years ago, I was there during a hurricane, and I was swimming in the pool at Pop Century right before they were going to close the parks down. And it was pouring rain, but I really wanted some water therapy. And so I'm just like walking back and forth in the pool at night in the rain. And I just said something to the lifeguard, whatever, just to make conversation. So we started a conversation and he's like, oh, are you here with your family or... And yeah, I could tell he didn't know how to finish that. And I was like, no, I'm here by myself. He's like, oh, that's so cool. And I was like, yes, that is so cool. So yeah, the more I go, the more I realize how very, very cool it is. And so when you are there and you're feeling lonely or you're feeling self-conscious, just think of how cool you are that you are going by yourself and making all these really cool decisions about this awesome vacation for yourself. And if you are a parent, I am a cat parent, I'm not a human parent, but I can appreciate the guilt that you might feel if you are a parent going by yourself without your kids. Just remember that you need to fill your own cup first, and being in touch with your inner child and being in touch with the parts of you that get healed when you're at Disney World will make you a more full parent for your children. And I also think of a comment that I saw underneath an article that was making fun of parents who go to Disney World by themselves. And the comment, it was a Facebook comment, and all it said was, going to Disney with children is miserable. Now, I can't attest to that, but I will tell you that I do not miss my nieces and nephews when I am at Disney. I'd be like, ooh, this would be really cool for them. But their parents would need to be there, and I would just show up at random moments to be like, high five, pictures, and then go and do my own thing. So there you go. All right, one more question because this episode is already long enough. What are some unique things to do at Disney World when you're going solo to either keep it fresh and cool or to balance the experiences that you normally have with children or family? So I will definitely recommend checking out my Enchanted Extras episode as well as the episode about resort activities. So there are a lot of different enchanting extras that are different activities that cost a little bit more money, and sometimes they're only for adults, and enchanting extras and resort activities that are really, really cool things to explore. There is the Keys to the Kingdom behind the scenes tour at Magic Kingdom, which is surprisingly affordable, kind of. I mean, of all the things at Disney, it's definitely could be a lot more money. So, so fingers crossed nobody hears this and jacks the price up. There's also some really, really cool experiences at Animal Kingdom. There is Savor the Savannah, Wild Africa Trek, which is on my list of things to do. There is an elephant, behind the scenes elephant thing. There's a behind the scenes rhino thing. All very cool and different price ranges as well. There aren't as many behind the scenes things at Epcot, but one of you solos, thank you so much, let me know that there were pre-COVID. So hopefully they'll bring some of those back. But then the resorts have really cool things. And again, sometimes they're only for adults. There's a Sangria University, which is the history of sangria. And then you can make your own sangria. And that is at Coronado Springs Resort. There are painting activities and mosaic activities, which I was worried was only going to be for kids. And then I showed up and there were no kids. So that was awesome. So go and check those out. Also, go explore other resorts. Animal Kingdom Lodge is such a great resort to go and spend time at. They have a full safari. actually, that's something I should have mentioned. One of the reasons why I don't often go to Animal Kingdom when I'm going for a short trip is because I will go to Animal Kingdom Lodge and go see all the animals there. I've talked about that in a few different episodes, so go and find those, and also on Instagram. So there's so many things that you can do as an adult that goes off the beaten path. And again, some of those things aren't even for children. So listen to my Enchanted Extras and the resort activities episode so you can learn a little bit more about the different resorts and the bonus activities that they have, as well as the extra things that they're at the parks that you can add to your vacation as well. And because they're a little bit more money, sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot bit, doing them solo is excellent because you're only paying for yourself and you're not paying for anybody else. So it's actually a really cool thing to go do and treat yourself. Oh my gosh, so much. But please go back to the former episodes, listen to them, think about your vacation, connect with me on Instagram, let me know if you have other questions. For the rest of this month, I'm going to post some solo stories about Disneyland Paris, not a great time, unfortunately, but also Hong Kong and Disney Sea and Tokyo Disney. So make sure you listen for that. And again, like I said, connect with me on Instagram. Let me know if you want a second season. I'm on the fence about whether or not there should be new episodes come April. And if you're listening and other people are listening and you want more of solo tips and tricks and stories, please let me know. It's really great to hear from people who are listening. So thanks so much for listening. It's been wonderful to see the podcast grow. And if this is on your resolution list for 2025, let's make it happen. All right, bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you liked this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 and I think only podcast for solo travel to Disney World. Help me make this podcast even bigger. Please make sure you rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. You can do all three. That's really great. It's also really, really great to connect with you, and you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. And if you want to support the podcast even more, and keep it ad-free, you can buy me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Disney_solo_magic. And for the low price of $3 American, which is about $5 Canadian, and it's hard to even find a coffee at that price these days, you can support me and the podcast and help keep me caffeinated for a week ahead of content creation and editing. Thank you all so much for listening. It is just wonderful to build this community, and I can't wait to create more content for you. Bye.